Alright, welcome to lesson 3. Today we are continuing with our same standard 8 and S1. Today's objective is that by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to find the square roots and cubed roots of rational numbers, and you'll know you're successful when you can create an equation to find the square root or the cubed root of a given rational number. It's going to be a pretty quick lesson. We'll go through our examples and exercises as normal, and then you will complete a exit ticket for your grade today, okay? Let's move forward. All right, I have a couple of tables here, and we're just going to fill them in. Basically, for each table, we have things that represent the same number. So for here, I have 2 times 2, which is the same thing as saying 2 squared, 2 times itself. And 2 squared is 4. So the square root of 4 is, well, what times itself equals 4? 2. Okay, so just want to get you fluent with these things, so we're just going to keep practicing. The next row. 3 times 3. That is the same as saying 3 squared. And 3 squared is 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. Kind of work backwards on that last row. Third row, 4 times 4. This is the same as 4 squared. And 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. So the square root of 16 is 4. 5 times 5 is 5 squared. This is the same as saying 25, because that's what it actually equals. And the root of 25, the square root of 25 is 5. So this is what we practiced yesterday and the day before a little bit. Below, we're going to get into our new learning, which is about cubes. So you know that when you square a number, you raise it to the second power. When you cube a number, you're raising it to the third power. So here we have 2 times 2 times 2. This is what it means to cube a number. So we would rewrite this as 2 to the third power in order for it to be simplified. And 2 times 2 times 2, it's not 4. 2 times 2 times 2, well, 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2, it's 8. Okay? So, when we write this backwards, if we left it like that, it would be the square root of 8, and there's no square root of 8. But if we put a little 3 here right where the index should go, then that means the cubed root of 8, and we know that the cubed root of 8 is 2. Okay? Practicing more. Oh, there's another mistake here. This is supposed to be a 3. So 3 times 3 times 3 is the same as saying 3 cubed. What is 3 cubed? Well, 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27. And we can rewrite this backwards as saying that the cubed root of 27 is 3. Okay? Next, we have 4 times 4 times 4. This is 4 cubed. And what does that actually equal? Well, 4 times 4 is 16, times another 4. If you want to do that in your calculator, it is 64. So the cubed root of 64 is 4. And then the last one down here, 5 times 5 times 5 is 5 cubed. Well, 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times another 5 is 125. So if we were to take the cube root of that, we get 5. All right, so we're going to be working with squares and cubes today. Please make sure you have this down before we move on to the next screen. All right, example 1 says find the positive value of x that makes each equation true. Check your solution. X squared equals 169. So I'm just going to rewrite this right here. I'm trying to solve for x, so I want to get x by itself. Right now it is not by itself, it's being squared. So the first step in solving this is to take the square root of both sides. Okay? The square root symbol will cancel out this 2. And we will just be left with x. And over here we have to actually do this math. But for this first part it said explain the step, the first step. The first step is to take the square root of both sides. All right. And then on the bottom it says, solve the equation. Check your answer. Well, 169, I know that I've seen that number before, so I'm guessing it's a perfect square, but I'm going to start with 100, which is 10 times 10, or 10 squared. And I'm going to move forward. So 11 squared is 121. 12 squared is 144. 13 squared, if I do my calculator, 13 times 13, 169. So that's my answer there. So my answer is my answer is 13 when you take the square root of 169. And I can check my answer by doing 13 times 13. Does it equal 169? Yes. Okay. Make sure you have all this down, and we're going to move forward. All right, for this one, I want you to try it yourself. It says a square-shaped park has an area of 324 yards squared. Okay, what are the dimensions of the park? So you have to know this about area, that these two numbers are being multiplied together to find the area, the length and the width. Now, if it's a square, it's the same number. So essentially this is saying something squared equals 324. I want you to solve this. Take a couple of minutes to get it done. Remember, you can use your guess and check method, and you have a calculator to rely on as well. All right? So the first step here was to take the square root of both sides, because I know the square root is going to cancel up this squared, and it's going to get my x by itself, and I have to do it to the other side as well. So these cancel, and I'm just left with x equals, and then I need to solve the square root of 324. So I'm going to just do my guess and check, see how close I can get to 324. So I'm going to start with maybe 15. 15 squared. 15 times 15, 225. All right, so I got to go a little bit higher than that. So I'm going to do 16 squared, 16 times 16, and in my calculator I get 256. I got to keep going up. 17 squared, 17 times 17. This is 289. Okay, got to keep going. 18 squared, 18 times 18. 324. So this is our magic winner. So when we take the square root of 324, our answer is 18. How could I check my answer? Well, I could do is 18 times 18, 324. And it is, if you do it on your calculator. So these two numbers are 18s. And this is in yards, so we'll put it in yards. All right, make sure you get it down, check your work with mine, and we're going to move forward. Okay, so example 3 is similar to example 2, but this time I have a cube. So it's three-dimensional. And I was finding the volume. So the volume is the length times the width times the height. And if this is a cube, then those are all three the same number. So it says the volume is 27 inches cubed. What's the measure of one of its sides? So if I'm cubing something, I'm multiplying the same number 3 times. So doing x to the third power equals 27. Now if I want to get that x completely by itself, to get rid of this cubed sign, I have to take the cubed root of each side. And to show the cube root, you just changed your index to be a 3. Okay? From there, on the left side, my cubed root cancels my cubed, and I'm just left with x. And on the right side, I have to do some guessing and checking. Okay? So this is not a super huge number, so I'm just going to start off at the bottom. 1 cubed. 1 times 1 times 1, that equals 1. Okay? So 2 cubed. 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Times another 2, 8. 3 cubed. 3 times 3 times 3. Well, 3 times 3 is 9. Times another 3, 27. So that is my answer. The The answer is that each of these sides are a 3 inches. And that's going to be my work here. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so that is the volume of this cube, and I found what each side equals. Make sure you have it down, and we're going to move forward. All right, use your guess and check method, and please solve this equation. Take about a minute to do it. Message me in the chat when you have your answer. All right, to get x completely by itself, you should have taken the square root of both sides. When I do that, x becomes by itself. And I did some guessing and checking over here on the left. I started with 20 squared because I remembered yesterday it was 400, so I knew, oh, that's pretty high up there, so I'll continue with that. And I went all the way down to 25 squared, and at 25 squared I found that it equaled 625. So when I take the square root of 625, I would get 25. So my answer is 25. Check it with my work. Make sure you have the same thing down, and we're going to move forward to our next one. All right, it says what positive value of x makes the following equation true? We have x squared equals 64. This is an example, by the way, so I'm going to go through it. We're going to take the square root of both sides. And we're going to find what x is. You'll notice that I don't put any index here, right? There's nothing in this section. And the reason for that is that just like there's an invisible 1 in front of every number, or beneath every number is a fraction, there's an invisible 2 there. Okay, that's just automatic. So what we're going to do is we are going to cancel these out. We're left with x equals, well, what times what equals 64? You should have this one memorized. 8 times 8 equals 64, so that is our answer here. Square root of 64 is 8. Have it down, we're moving forward. All right, this one's a little bit different. This is the cubed root of 64. So you guys are going to have to do this one on your own. Take the cubed root of both sides, and you're going to have to figure out what times what times what times itself 3 times equals 64. So if I were you, I would start with maybe the number 2 and move up from there. Okay. And get this solved. All right, filling in these cubed roots over to the right side. 2 cubed is the same as 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2 is 8. 3 cubed, 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27. 4 cubed, 4 times 4 is 16, times another 4, 64. That's our answer right there. So what is the cubed root of 64? 4. Right, make sure you have it down, and we're going to move forward. All right, so this one's a little bit different. We're going to have an extra step. It says what squared equals 256 to the negative first power. So I'm just going to rewrite it right here and remind you of a few things. So this negative 1 right here, what this actually does to our 256 is it flips it upside down and makes it a fraction. So it's the same as saying 1 over 256. Okay? So that's all you need to know, is that when you have a negative 1 attached to a base, for next one, it just turns it into a fraction with a 1 on top. Okay? And it makes it positive. So what I'm looking for is the square root of 1 over 256. So this is going to be a fraction, but I can still find it. Okay? So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. On the left side, I'm just left with x. And on the right side, I'm going to have to solve this. So the first one I'm going to do is 1. My top. What times what equals 1? Well, 1 times 1 equals 1. So my top number is going to stay a 1. Now I'm going to do the bottom. What times what? What squared equals 256? Well, we've been working with this number quite a bit, so we know it's pretty close to to 15. So I'm going to start with 15 squared. 15 times 15 is 225. Then I'm just going to move up to 16 times 16, 256. So my bottom number is going to be 16. So if I were to square 1/16, I would get 1 over 256. And at that point, that's the same as saying 256 to the negative first power. So this is my answer here. Make sure you have it down. Let me know if you have any questions with this. It was just one extra step, okay? All right, here I want you to find the value of x that makes this equation true. We have x to the third power equals 343 to the negative first power. First thing we want to do is get this negative 1 away. So everything over here stays the same. And this becomes a fraction. This becomes 1 over 343. Okay? From there, I want you to try to solve this. You're going to have a fraction as your answer, but the numerator is going to be 1. You just have to figure out this 343. What times itself 3 times equals that? Okay? Take a second to do that, and we will go over it. All right, the first thing I'm going to do to solve is take the cubed root of both sides. Over here, my cubed root cancels my 3, and I'm left with x equals. Over here, I have to take the cube root of both the top and the bottom. Well, the top's easy, that says a 1. The bottom is what's a little bit harder. So I have to figure out what times what equals 343. So let's start with 5 cubed. It's the same as saying 5 times 5 times 5. Well, 5 times 5 is 25, times another 5 is 125. So I'm kind of far off, but I'm just going to keep going. 6 cubed. 6 times 6 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36, times another 6 is 216. Okay, 7 cubed. 7 times 7 times 7. 7 times 7 is 49, times another 7 is 343, so that's our answer. So on the bottom we're going to have a 7. So the cube root of 1 over 343 is 1/7. If you multiply that by itself 3 times, it will become that same fraction. Okay, make sure you have it down. We're going to move on. All right, to complete our lesson closure, when a number is raised to the second power, it's called squared and can be represented with an exponent of 2. When it's raised to the third power, it's cubed and has an exponent of 3. When we find the square root of a number, the number is written with a radical with an index of 2, or sometimes we just leave it blank, right? We don't have to put that 2 there. When we do find the cubed root of a number, it's written with a radical symbol with an index of 3. Okay? We can work backwards to guess and check to find our square roots and cube roots of given numbers. Last thing I want to remind you of is that when we have a number raised to the negative first power, it's the same thing as just writing it as a fraction with a 1 on top. Okay? Moving on. All right, here's your exit ticket for today. A couple of questions. We have the first one. I want you to tell me what times itself equals 225. You don't have to do this part or this part. Just answer that first question. Next one, what to the third power equals 64? Next one, what to the second power equals 361 to the negative first power? Remember, this is the same as saying what squared equals 1 over 361. And the last one, what's to the third power equals 1000 to the negative first power, which is the same as saying that. Okay, so I've helped you out a little bit here. Go ahead, take your time, show your work, and get these 4 questions answered. All right, no reflection today.